The Detroit Lions are back in action this weekend, coming out of their very early bye week, and they're looking to get back in the winning column. But most importantly, they're looking to get back to a clean injury report. And today, that is exactly what we will be discussing. After a week four riddled with injuries, where the Detroit Lions had to fight and claw without their starting center, without their starting safety, without a starting edge rusher, and without a starting linebacker, the Detroit Lions come out of week four pretty banged up. And going into their bye week, it was very important that they were going to have to rest some of their starters. They were going to get a chance to heal up and come back against the Dallas Cowboys as a fully strengthened unit. And today, we're going to take a look at the Lions injury report as of Tuesday. We're going to take a look at the practice report, who was playing and who was not, as well as a little bit of breaking news about a couple of the younger players on this roster, namely Christian Mahogany and Ennis Rakestraw. Both of them have been in the injury news and in the injury reports. So today, we're going to take a look at those players as well as a couple of the players heading in to week five. So, with that being said, let's kick it off with Frank Ragnow, who did miss week four with a torn pectoral. Now, this was not a complete tear of his pectoral muscle, but Frank did end up tearing or partially tearing his pectoral muscle in week three versus the Arizona Cardinals. He did finish out the game. However, he did visibly look injured throughout certain stages of that game. He was holding his pectoral. He was obviously a little bit lessened from the strength perspective and the pass blocking side of things, but he did finish out the game and did not miss a snap. However, going into week four with a bye week on the horizon, the Detroit Lions decided that it would be in their best long-term interest to rest the Pro Bowl caliber center. Now, Frank Ragnow has played 214 snaps for the Detroit Lions over his first three games and has allowed just one sack on the season. He's one of the best centers in the NFL, graded as a top 5 run blocking center in all of football. And although his pass protection has been a little bit down this season via the numbers, via pressures and sacks allowed, he has been a very strong unit of this offensive line so far. And of course, the Detroit Lions are a better unit with Frank Ragnow than they are without him. He is a leader on the offensive line. He calls protections. He calls certain things at the line of scrimmage. And he is one of the best centers in the NFL. So if the Detroit Lions can welcome him back, that would, of course, be a massive upgrade. On Tuesday, Frank Ragnow was working with the team. He was in the huddle. He was snapping the football. He was the center one, and he was back at practice. He was a little bit limited, but of course, being out there at all is incredibly impressive, and we know Frank Ragnow is willing to fight through injury if at all possible. A very encouraging sign for the Detroit Lions and potentially getting back their Pro Bowl caliber offensive linemen. Brian Branch was the same way. He missed week four with an illness as well as a little bit due to the concussion that he suffered in week three versus Arizona. He was completely practicing this week. He was not limited at all in practice after a week to recover from his concussion on top of the week from Arizona, as well as a week to recover from his illness. He was fully practicing in 3 games for the Detroit Lions this year. He already has 16 tackles, 5 pass breakups, an interception, and 9 stops on defense, that being third down stops. He has been incredible. He has been probably a Pro Bowl, if not an all-pro caliber player thus far in the NFL season. And of course, just like Frank Ragnow, welcoming Brian Branch back to the secondary would be crucial. Not that Brandon Joseph played a poor game versus Seattle, but of course, there is just a different level of intensity when Brian Branch is on the field. There's a different level of playmaking, of instincts, of hitting, of physicality, and Brian Branch brings the best out of this Detroit defense. And having him back in the secondary will be a massive step up and a massive help for a secondary that has struggled over the last couple of weeks. Now, we did get some injury news on Derek Barnes. At the latest press conference, Dan Campbell talked about their fourth-year linebacker. And unfortunately, the news was not as positive as we were hoping. Dan Campbell did not officially rule out Barnes' return towards the end of the season, but did say that it is not something that they will guarantee. It is not an injury that they know for a fact Derek Barnes will be back from for the playoffs. And unfortunately, it does seem as though the Detroit Lions will be without their defensive leader for a majority of the season. Now, with that being said, that does put into perspective that towards the end of the season, in January, potentially going even into February, the Detroit Lions could be welcoming back a number of players to this defense, including Broderick Martin, including Emmanuel Mosley, including, of course, now Derek Barnes, but also including guys like John Kaminsky, who tore his MCL at the very beginning of the preseason. He is a player that could potentially rejoin the Lions roster come playoff time and come the end of the season. So, although the Detroit Lions will certainly be missing those players now, and they will certainly be missing those guys towards the latter stages of the NFL season, there is a chance that they get back three, if not even four starters by the time the playoffs roll around, getting some fresh legs, getting some healthy players back, and of course, getting back some big time playmakers as they approach the biggest moments of their season. Now, likely the moment you guys all clicked on the video for what is going on with Ennis Rakestraw. Is Christian Mahogany coming back, and what does it look like for the Detroit Lions rookie class? Well, Ennis Rakestraw has played 4 total snaps for the Detroit Lions this season, and after Monday night's game versus the Seattle Seahawks, Ennis Rakestraw put out a very cryptic message on Instagram. It was just a picture of him with the caption that says, "Needs surgery." Now, we don't totally know what this means. We haven't heard very much news about the injury to Ennis Rakestraw, but what we do know is that Ennis Rakestraw did suffer a hamstring injury during warmups of the Detroit Lions Week 2 versus the Buccaneers and was limited, if not missing the entire game in Week 3 versus Arizona. To be honest, I do not totally remember, but I do believe he missed the entirety of the game and did not travel with the team going down to Arizona. Now, with that being said, Ennis Rakestraw did suit up and did put the pads on for week 4, where he played a couple of special team snaps and I believe one snap at the cornerback position against Seattle and was not targeted. Now, we do not know much information about Ennis Rakestraw. We do not know if there is a major injury. We do not know if he's even talking about himself in that post. It was not very clear, but of course, it has led to a lot of speculation around the Detroit Lions media, a lot of speculation among the NFL fan base, and it's unclear as to whether or not Ennis Rakestraw will be available for the Detroit Lions in Dallas. Now, Ennis Rakestraw is not a player that needs to play right away, right? If he does miss time, the Lions still have Terrion Arnold. They still have Carlton Davis. They still have Khalil Dorsey. They still have Kendall Vilder, and they still have some good, solid depth at the cornerback position. But of course, if the Detroit Lions go down a second cornerback within the first month of the NFL season, that leads the Detroit Lions depth to being increasingly thinner. And of course, now if one of the cornerbacks was to get hurt, now you're relying on Kendall Vilder again, who did start and did actually play in week 4. But of course, that's just not a guy you want to have to rely on if at all possible. Now, as of right now, Ennis Ennis Rakestraw was not absent from practice on Tuesday. Ennis Rakestraw is not on the injury report as far as I know, but it is something to keep an eye on and is something to be cautious of. Moving on to the Lions' other rookie on the injury report, Christian Mahogany has missed the entirety of his rookie season so far with a lower leg injury. It was suffered throughout his time at Boston College and led him to not being able to really participate very much in the combine, as well as potentially falling through the NFL draft. Now, Ennis Rakestraw was a 6th-round selection in the 2024 class. He was the Detroit Lions' last selection of the draft and has the potential to be a future starter and a future foundational piece for the Detroit Lions. He's a fantastic pulling guard. He's great in pass protection, is ferocious in the run game. And he's a player that the Lions really liked and had higher up on their draft boards and was surprised that fell all the way to them in the 6th round. His practice window and window for return, his 21-day opportunity, is now open. The Detroit Lions will be practicing Christian Mahogany over the next 3 weeks, and if he is healthy, will return to the active roster. Now, this is not a guarantee that says he will return to the roster. This is not a guarantee that he will be starting or playing for the Detroit Lions offensive line this year. Much like Ennis Rakestraw, the depth in front of him is really good, right? The Lions offensive line is a top unit in the NFL, and they are a fantastic offensive line with Taylor Decker and Graham Glasgow and Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler and Penei Sewell all being fantastic. There's no need for Christian Mahogany to start or play right away, but it is encouraging to see that his 21-day practice window is officially open, and we'll get to see 73 officially on the field for the first time. He was a fan favorite coming out of Boston College, a great run blocker, a great pass blocker, and a player that many expected to go as early as the 3rd round of the NFL draft. he falls to the Detroit Lions, and now we're going to get to see a chance at Christian Mahogany's return in Detroit. But with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Here's a quick injury update to let you know where the Detroit Lions are at going into week 5 as they get ready to head out to Arlington, Texas. But with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed the video, please go down below and subscribe, as well as liking the video. It tells the algorithm that, of course, you enjoy the content and promotes it to other people so they can get the Detroit Lions news. So if you could do that, that'd be greatly appreciated. Again, if you could subscribe to the channel, that would help us out a ton. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions.